Good morning, all of you. In today's session, we are going to discuss about CSIR NET JRF Chemical Science, June 2017, Part B. So, CSIR question papers, we already started recording all the sessions of chemical science previous year question papers. In this regard, we already finished 2018 entire June and December question papers. 2019 June December question papers, a clear discussion was given. And one more is 2020 question paper is also completely discussed, including Part B, Part C session, which pertaining organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, and even physical chemistry. Entire previous year question papers of these 3 academic years have been completed. Now we entered into June 2017. So in today's session, entire Part B session of CSIR NET JRF Chemical Science 2017 Part B will going to be continued. So this previous year question paper analysis will help you to succeed in your entrance examinations of chemistry relevant and also competitive examinations. Let us enter into our actual concept. So here entire Part B of 2017 question paper is going to be covered in this session. First, let us start with question number 21. Till 20 aptitude, general aptitude questions will be there. 21 onwards, chemistry questions will be started. So first question is, which of the following pair have magnetic numbers for closed nuclear shells? Okay, here magic numbers to be predicted from the given integer numbers. Okay, in order to predict the magic numbers, first let us know what is meant by magic number. Magic number is nothing but either proton or neutrons, so which are together called nucleons, which are present within the nucleus of any atom, right? Either protons or neutrons separately, otherwise they get combinedly. If they are in filled state, completely filled shells, if they are present, that are known to be magic numbers. Magic numbers are nothing but either protons or neutrons separately, and if they are present in completely filled state in the shells of atomic nucleus are known as magic numbers. Completely filled configuration should be there. So those magic numbers include 2, 8, 20, 28, 50, 82, and 126, right? Among all the given integer values, the values pertaining 50 and 82, so 50 and 82, these two are known to be magic numbers. Okay, magic numbers which purely related to the nucleons. Either you may consider electrons or either you may consider protons or neutrons which are present within the nucleus, right? So in that case, completely filled shell configuration is the required condition in order to satisfy this magic number. Okay, so the magic numbers are 2, 8, 20, 28, 50, 82, and 126. So these atomic numbers are corresponds to magic numbers 50 and 82. So these are present in this series, so that we can say these two are said to be magic numbers. For question number 21, option 3 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 22. Identify the correct statement for the phosphorometric measurement of the following. Fluorescence and phosphorescence, which are related with photochemistry, where any light absorbed by the system after some extent of time, otherwise at that particular instance only back emission of light is possible. That light emission process is 2 types. One is fluorescence, second is phosphorescence, right? So with respect to these two, we have to predict, with respect to phosphorescence, we have to predict what are the right statements provided within the problem. So before going to discuss this, first let us know what is meant by fluorescence, what is meant by phosphorescence. Okay, so that is clearly depicted in this energy profile diagram. In that energy profile diagram, first we are taking the electron which is at ground state. Ground state electron is denoted with S0. So this electron, by taking energy, this electron will be excited into S1 level and even S2 level, right? Electron from the ground state can be excited to S1 and S2 level as well. After exciting to singlet state 1 and singlet state 2, what happens? These electrons can be directly go into the ground state by the emission of radiation. Okay, so directly they go into the ground state by the emission of radiation, that is known as fluorescence. Fluorescence is nothing but, so ground state electrons when excited, they get converted into excited singlet state. Excited singlet state electrons when coming back with the emission of energy into ground state singlet state is known as fluorescence. Fluorescence is possible whenever light absorption and emission both are simultaneous process. So whenever light absorbed, at that instance only light emission is possible without any time delay. Without a fraction of seconds, emission of radiation is possible, because singlet state now turned into again singlet only. There is no change in the parity. Hence, it is the spontaneous process. Whereas in case of phosphorescence, there is a certain time delay. Absorption takes place. After the absorption, if emission possible after 5 minutes, after 3 minutes, that is called as phosphorescence. So if time delay is there in the emission of radiation when coming back to the ground state, that is said to be phosphorescence. Why it is possible? Why the time delay is possible? Because S0 is the singlet ground state. Whenever electron taking energy, that turned into S1 as well as S2 singlet excited level. The singlet excited level can be turned into triplet. That means spin parity is changed. So spin paired state now turned into spin parallel state by the process called inter-system crossing. Okay, so there is a change in spin multiplicity, spin parity, that is said to be inter-system crossing, where singlet excited state turned into triplet excited state. Okay, now this triplet excited state is turning into singlet ground state. That process requires some time. It consumes some time. That is known as phosphorescence. Phosphorescence is a time delay process where there is a change in their spin parity is possible, right? So this is the singlet state and this is the triplet this is the singlet ground state, and after the excitation there is the inversion of spin is possible, and the singlet state, this excited state can be involved in intersystem crossing, so that triplet state will be observed again back converted into singlet ground state by the process called phosphorescence, right? This is the process called phosphorescence. So now let us see what are the parameters which satisfy this phosphorescence of light, right? It is done after time delay. Yes, phosphorescence always carried after time delay. If absorption carried at 5 o'clock, for example, at 5:05, the light emission will be possible. So that kind of light emission is possible after certain extent of time. That is because of spin parity change, right? So option number 1 is the right statement. Immobilization of any light increases phosphorescence. Immobilization of analyte increases phosphorescence. That is nothing but if analyte is not moving anywhere. If analyte is not moving anywhere, then only here phosphorescence reaction get carried. Okay. If analyte is moving, what happens? Excitation may not be possible. In that case, phosphorescence parameters are not satisfied. Hence, immobilization of analyte is required condition for this one. Phosphorescence decreases in the presence of heavy atoms. So heavy atoms may not show any influence on this excitation followed by emission. Phosphorescence, fluorescence, both are the kind of emission of radiation. They may not be impacted by heavy atoms. Phosphorescence may not be impacted by heavy atoms. Only the satisfying statements are A and B. That's the reason why for question number 22, option number 2, that is A, B. So option number 2 will be the right answer. Phosphorescence is nothing but emission of light when singlet excited state turned into triplet excited state. From that triplet excited state, it is coming to ground state singlet excited state. Okay, so this requires a time delay. That time delay process of emission is said to be phosphorescence. In this phosphorescence, there is a process called inter-system crossing, right? So that will be possible. This is a question number 22 for this. Option number 2 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 23. Choose the isoelectronic pair among the following. Isoelectronic species is nothing but the compound which having similar total valency electron count is said to be isoelectronic. Okay, if we are having similar number of electrons within the two different complexes, now these two are said to be isoelectronic. Isostructural means similar structure will be there. Isoelectronic means similar a number of electron count will be there. Okay, let us predict the total valency electron count in these complexes. Vanadium hexacarbonyl is the starting compound. Vanadium is the kind of transition metal where D3 system will be there. Yes. So here 4s2 3d3. 4s2 3d3 total valency electrons are 5. Valency electrons are 5. So this total valency electron, how can we count? Valency electrons of given complex to be predicted. Vanadium is 4s2 3d3 system, 3 electrons in d orbital, s orbital, 2 electrons will be there, total 5 electrons in vanadium. And carbonyl, each carbonyl contributing to 2 electrons, and total 6 carbonyl groups are there. So 5 plus 6 into 2, total valency electron count for this one will be 17. Okay, so vanadium hexacarbonyl is pertaining 17 electron system. Let us go with the second complex, copper neta 5 C5 H5 CO. This is called a complex of cyclopentadienyl anion which attached to the copper, which is giving 5 electrons. Neta stands for this symbolizes how many electrons released by the ligand of cyclopentadienyl anion. Okay, so neta 1 is there, 1 electron will be given, neta 2, 2 electrons, neta 5 denotes 5 electrons have been given from this cyclopentadienyl anion. The maximum possibility will be 5 electrons only. And here one more carbonyl group is there. This is copper neta 5 C5 H5 CO will be the complex. For this purpose, let us predict the total valency electron count. Copper being it is D9 system, its valency shell configuration will be 4s1 3d10. So 10 plus 1, 11 electrons are valency electrons, copper 11 electrons. And neta 5 stands for 5 electrons given by this cyclopentadienyl anion. So here it is given as 5. And one carbonyl gives 2 electrons. Total 11 plus 5, 16 plus 2, 18 electrons. This copper complex is giving 18 electrons to us. And one more is cobalt CO taken for minus. Copper tetracarbonyl anion. Copper tetracarbonyl anion will be there where total valency electron. So this is total valency electrons. Okay. So cobalt is of D7 system. Okay. NS2 4s2 3d7 electronic configuration. Total 9 electrons will be there in the cobalt. Okay, each carbonyl group is giving 2 electrons, so that 4 into 2 it will be 8, and minus 1 means this negative charge also imparting 1 electron to us. Okay, so that's why 1 electron have been added here, right? 9 plus 4 into 2 means 9 plus 8 plus 1, total 9 plus 9, 18 electron. So this copper complex and cobalt complex both are resided with 18 electron system. Both are resided with 18 electron system. Hence, you can say these two are isoelectronic in nature, right? So isoelectronic species are copper and cobalt. Let us go with another example also, that is iridium chloro CO PPH3 taken twice. This is known to be Vaska's complex. This is a named complex, that is Vaska's complex. Let us predict iridium being it is NS2 N-1 D7 system. Okay, means 7 plus 2, 9 electrons will be there. Then chlorine contributing 1 electron, carbonyl group contributing 2 electrons, triphenyl phosphine group is giving 2 electrons. How many are there? 2 are there. So 2 into 2. So this is not a minus charge. This is a Vaska's complex. Okay. So here each triphenyl phosphine is contributing 2 electrons. 2 into 2 it will be 4, right? So 9 plus 1 10, 10 plus 2 12, 12 into 12 plus 4 16. It is the kind of 16 electron system. Okay, it is the kind of 16 electron system. That's why we can say among all the given complexes, only B, C are 18 electron complexes. That's why for question number 23, option number 2 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 24. An organometallic fragment that is isolable with CH3 positive. Okay, so CH3 positive, what is the isolable transition metal complex we have to predict? So before that, first we have to know what is isolable analogy. If electron count of transition metal complex is mapping with main group element, that is known as isolable analogy. If transition metal complex of 18 electrons, that is isolable with 8 electron system of main group element, that may be either S block or P block element. Okay, so if it is 17 electron system of transition metal, 7 electrons should be there in the main group. 16 electron system with 6 electrons, 15 electrons with 5 electrons, 14 electrons with 4 electrons. So in this way, there is a correlation between transition metal and the main group element. This is said to be a isolable analogy, right? So for that purpose, first let us see what are the number of electrons, total valency electrons present in this CH3 positive methyl carbocation. So what is this fragment? Methyl carbocation. For this methyl carbocation, carbon valency will be 4. Carbon valency electron count will be 4. And how many hydrogens are there? 3 hydrogens. Each hydrogen contributing 1. So 1 charge on that. 1 is the valency of hydrogen. So 3 into 1. So here we have positive charge. Positive charge denotes what? There already 1 electron deficiency is there. Means we have to subtract 1 electron from this cationic species. If anion is there, 1 electron will be added. If cation is there, 1 electron will be subtracted from the system, right? Now what we have to do? 4 plus 3 into 1 minus 1. 4 plus 3, nothing but 7, minus 1, 6. So how many total valency electron count will be there for this CH3 positive? 6 electron system. Then what is isolable analogy? 6 electron system and the transition metal complex, how many electrons should be there? 16 electrons should be there. That's why we have to predict the total valency electron count of given complexes. Iron pentacarbonyl. Iron being it is D6 system, valency electron count will be 8, right? 4s2 3d6. So 6 plus 2, 8 valency electrons are present in iron. Then how many carbonyl groups are there? 5 carbonyls. Each carbonyl contributing 2 electrons. That's why 5 into 2 total 10 electrons will be given from carbonyl. So 8 plus 10, 18 electron system it is. Iron pentacarbonyl is of 18 electron system. Then manganese pentacarbonyl was given. When manganese pentacarbonyl, manganese being it is the D5 system, and D5 plus 2 electrons from s orbital. So it will be 7 electrons, 7 valency electron system, and each carbonyl 2 electrons. We have 5 carbonyls, so 5 into 2 total 17 electron count will be there here. In case of chromium, we have 6 electrons. So chromium being it is D4 system, right? S orbital 2 electrons, so total valency electrons in chromium will be 6. Carbonyl group will be 5 into 2. So 10 plus 6, 16 electron system chromium. And nickel complex will be given nickel D8 system. D8 plus S electrons are 2. Total 10 valency electrons are there in nickel, and carbonyl contributing to 2 electrons. How many carbonyl? 3 carbonyls are there. And here we have plus charge. If plus charge is there, we have to remove 1 electron. If minus charge is there, 1 electron will be added. So total electron count of this nickel complex will be 15. In order to get the isolable analogy, 6 electron system will be isolable with 16 electron, right? So then which is exactly matching with this one? Chromium complex. So methyl carbocation and chromium pentacarbonyl both are isolable in nature. This is because of 16 electron and 6 electron system. This is known as isolable analogy. For question number 24, option number 3 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 25. The calculated and observed magnetic moment of aqua complexes of lanthanide 0 and 3.5 respectively. The lanthanide ion is, what is the lanthanide? We have to predict here. Calculated and observed magnetic moment values in Bohr magnetons of aqua complexes are given for lanthanides. It is very clear that except two elements in the lanthanides, all the lanthanide elements are showing fixed oxidation state, that is +3. Okay, and except europium and samarium +3, remaining all are having calculated and expected magnetic moment values are exactly similar. When we are calculating by using formula, when we are predicting using instrument, both are exactly equal, except europium and samarium +3. Calculated and predicted values are deviated for these two elements. Okay, that is only the answer what we are expecting. So let us calculate by using formula again. So in order to predict theoretical magnetic moment can be calculated by the formula which is given by Landé. So Landé's formula is used for the prediction of magnetic moment. So in order to get that, first of all, we have to extract what is L value, what is S value, what is J value. Europium +3 is of F6 system. Okay, so it is 4f6 system where 6 electrons are resided in the 7f orbitals. 6 electrons, it is the system of less than half filled. And L value, so L value is predicted. How can we predict L value? So here for f orbital, L values are ranges from -L to +L. Okay, so here it will be +3, +2, +1, 0, -1, -2, -3. So this is the ML values. We can say magnetic moment, angular momentum values. Okay, so here +3, +2 means +5, +1, +5, +1, 6. 6 minus 1, 5. 5 minus 2, 3. So L is given by 3. L is given by 3. Simply we can do like this. As a -1 +1 get cancelled, +2 -1 get cancelled, 0 will not impart any value to that one, only +3 will be there. For europium +3, L value will be, so L value will be 3. Then what is S value? S is nothing but spin of the electron. What is S value? So each electron is contributing plus half spin, because all are in clockwise rotation only, plus half spin is given for each electron. How many are there? 6. 6 into 1/2, it will be 3. Right? S value spin is given as 3. Okay, J value. In order to predict the J value, we have two formulas under two conditions. One is less than half filled condition. Second is more than half filled condition. For less than half filled, L minus S is the formula to predict the J value. For more than half filled, L plus S is the formula in order to predict the J value. Okay, so it is a kind of less than half filled, being it is F6 system. So only 6 electrons, more one vacant orbital is there. Hence, you can say europium +3 is the kind of less than half filled system. We can use L minus S formula. L is 3, S is also 3. That means J value is given as 0. What is J value? 0, because L minus S formula will be employed here. Right. Now, let us predict a magnetic moment by using Landé's formula. What is Landé's formula? Mu is equal to G under root J into J plus 1. Mu is the magnetic moment. Okay, this is known as Landé's formula. Mu is equal to G under root J into J plus 1. According to this calculation, J value is predicted as 0. So let us put J value 0. The product of G into J also becomes 0. Right? So any value which multiplied with other factor, so any value which multiplied with 0 factor becomes 0 only, right? That's why this entire magnetic moment becomes 0. In accordance with Landé's formula, calculated magnetic moment value for europium will be 0, but observed value will be, experimental value will be 3.5. That's the reason why the correct example for this aqua complex of lanthanide with 0 and 3.5. Both are given. So 0 is a calculated value. Just now we did the calculation. And the experimental value is 3.5. That's why right answer will be europium. So option number 3 will be the right answer. For promethium and praseodymium, so expected and observed, that means calculated and expected, both are similar. In case of samarium, there is a deviation. But what is the deviation? Let us see. Samarium calculated value will be 0.8, but observed value will be 1.5. These numerator values are not matching with the problem statement. That's the reason why for question number 25, option number 3 will be the right answer, where calculated value will be 0, experimental value will be 3.5, right? So option number 3 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 26. The compound that gives the basic solution in hydrofluoric acid. Okay. So hydrofluoric acid, when added to the given compounds, then where HF is behaving like a base. In order to predict that, we have to react these two reagents. Arsenic pentafluoride with HF, phosphorus pentafluoride with HF, boron trifluoride with HF, bromine trifluoride with HF. So these reactions we have to observe now. Let us see. Arsenic pentafluoride when treated with HF. So arsenic pentafluoride is electron deficient in nature and able to accept fluoride accepting reagent. That's why you can say this arsenic pentafluoride is the acid, HF is the base in this reaction. So electron deficiency is there. If electrons are accepted, then it is said to be acid. Right now it is turned into arsenic hexafluoride minus. Arsenic hexafluoride anion will be generated, and one more byproduct will be H2F positive. H2F positive will be the another byproduct generated in this reaction. When phosphorus pentafluoride was taken upon treating with hydrofluoric acid, it turned into phosphorus hexafluoride anion, and H2F positive will be generated, right? Here also, here phosphorus pentafluoride is working like a acid. And boron trifluoride, obviously we know boron trifluoride is a Lewis acid, right? That's why HF behaves like a base again, so that it will be fluorinated and BF4 minus boron tetrafluoride anion will be originated in this reaction. Dihydrogen fluoride positive will be generated in either byproduct. So in these three reactions, HF behaving like a base and remaining all the substituents are acids. But in case of bromine trifluoride, when HF is added, bromine trifluoride is used to release the fluoride ion to HF. The reaction will be inverted in this case. In all the above cases, HF is releasing F minus, and here this HF turned into positive cation. But in case of this one, HF turned into negative anion. Bromine compound is converted into positive cation by releasing F minus, so that the formation of product will be BRF2 positive, HF2 minus, right? So in this case, HF, the compound that gives basic solution in HF. In this case, HF is accepting F minus. HF is accepting, and the remaining all are HF is giving F minus. So that's the reason why here this BRF3 will be base, HF will be acid in this case. So option number, which option? Bromine trifluoride, option number 4 will be the right answer, where reverse of the reaction with respect to remaining all three equations are possible. So for question number 26, option number 4 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 27. Based on Vesper theory, the predicted shape of xenon pentafluoride anion, bromine pentafluoride respectively. We have to predict their geometry and shape as well. Okay, so there is a slight difference between geometry and shape of the molecule. So in accordance with the Vesper theory, geometry and shape of the molecules purely depends upon their hybridization of the orbitals. Whenever hybridization is considered, So we can easily predict what is the geometry and what is their corresponding shape of these molecules. So xenon pentafluoride anion was taken here. So in this xenon pentafluoride anion, xenon being it is noble gas, where electronic configuration will be chromium 4d10 5s2 5p6, completely filled electronic configuration will be there, right? So 5s2 and 5p6 is the ground level energy configuration. And when the electrons, so in order to get the sigma bonds, how many sigma bonds are required for us? 5 sigma bonds. That's the reason why this xenon will be excited, so that these 3 electrons will be excited into d level, and here s2 p3 d3 system will be generated, where sp3 d3 hybridization will be carried. What is the hybridization? sp3 d3 hybridization. Among all, one of the lone pair of electron resides upon xenon, and how many bonds are required? 5 bonds with fluorine atoms. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 atoms. These 5 electrons participate in sigma bond formation with the fluorine atoms, and one more negative charge is there within the molecule. That negative charge contributes 1 electron, so that it is the kind of sp3d3 system. For sp3d3 system, what will be the geometry? Pentagonal bipyramidal is the geometry. First, we have to know what is the difference between geometry and shape of the molecule. Geometry stands for in accordance with hybridization, exact structure of the compound, including lone pair of electrons. If the structure is given as such, that is called a geometry. Shape of the molecule is nothing but, in that case, we can discard, we can exclude the lone pair of electrons present in the molecule. That will not be regarded, and only the electrons which participate in sigma bond will be considered for shape of the molecule. Okay, in case of this one, what will be the geometry? Geometry of the molecule will be pentagonal bipyramidal. Pentagonal bipyramidal is the geometry of the molecule. But in case of shape of the molecule, we have to ignore these electron pairs present on the xenon, so that shape of the molecule will be pentagonal planar. Pentagonal bipyramidal is the geometry. Pentagonal planar will be the shape of the molecule. Let us go with second compound, bromine pentafluoride. In case of bromine pentafluoride, electronic configuration will be 4s2 4p5. So bromine electronic configuration will be 4s2 4p5. In order to get these many bonds, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bonds. In order to get 5 bonds around the bromine, 5 fluorines are able to form sigma bond. These 2 electrons will be excited into d level. Then we will get sp3d2 kind of hybridization. The hybridization will be sp3d2 hybridization, and sp3d2 hybridization corresponds to octahedral geometry. The geometry will be octahedral, but lone pair of electron excluded for shape of the molecule, that is said to be square pyramidal. So it will be square pyramidal, right? So this is the exact structure of the compound. Around the bromine, 5 fluorines will be there. One side electron pair is there. If electron pair is also considered, you can clearly say it is the kind of octahedral, being it is sp3d2 hybridized system. But this electron pair will be excluded for shape of the molecule, so that it is regarded as square pyramidal. The geometry will be octahedral, shape of the molecule will be square pyramidal. Now let us see where the correct answers are provided. Xenon pentafluoride anion will be pentagonal planar, and bromine pentafluoride will be square pyramidal. For question number 27, option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 28. In question number 28, both potassium and sulfuric acid form intercalation compounds with graphite. The graphite layers are, okay. So here graphite was taken. Into this graphite, in one condition we are adding potassium, in another condition we are adding with sulfuric acid. What kind of compounds will be generated, and what will be the process, reduction or oxidation? We have to predict that. So in order to get that, first we have to know what is graphite. Graphite is the polymeric substance of carbon. It is the allotropic form of carbon. So carbon allotropic forms are, so many allotropic forms of carbon are there. Among all well-known things, sir, one is graphite, second is diamond. Graphite is of sp2 hybridized system with one electron, free electron in its valency shell, and we can say diamond, where sp3 hybridization will be there. All electrons participated in sigma bond formation in the tetrahedral skeletal structure. In the graphite, sp2 hybridization will be there, and it possesses layered structure. Because of this layered structure that having the sliding property and exhibit lubricant activity, right? So this graphite, when intercalated, first we have to know what is meant by intercalation. Intercalation is nothing but insertion of any molecule between the layers of clathrates, chemical substances consisting lattices which used to trap the smaller molecule within its centers. So here it is clearly indicated. So these are the layered structures of graphite. In between, some of the small atoms are embedded. So this kind of fixing of some molecules within the cluster clathrate structure of chemical substances, the process is said to be intercalation, right? Graphite is a sp2 hybridized system, and layered structure will be there. Such kind of layers will be there. Here it will be clearly indicated. So it is a graphite system. Different layers of graphite will be there. In between, some of the atoms are embedded, incorporated. Okay, this is called intercalation. Whenever potassium atoms are incorporated, potassium being it is the group 1 element, where electrons will be liberated from the potassium, and that is the process of which will be reduced, which will be oxidized. The graphite layer, they are asking for graphite layer. That means we have to denote the graphite whether oxidized or reduced. Potassium releasing electrons, obviously you can say release of electrons is said to be the process of oxidation. The process of oxidation. And graphite is accepting electrons, and by accepting electron it is converted into graphite negative, so that by accepting electrons it get reduced. Graphite is reduced in this equation. Let us treat with sulfuric acid. So already we know graphite is of sp2 hybridized system. So in this we have more one electron free. So that free electron will be released. This is the exceptional non-metal which liberating electron. Actually, electrons are liberated by only metallic substances. Only the non-metal which liberating electron will be graphite only, right? So because of sp2 hybridization, one free electron is available in its valency shell. So we are treating with sulfuric acid. So whenever sulfuric acid is treated, sulfuric acid, graphite is releasing electron, sulfuric acid is accepting, which is denoted in this equation. So that graphite becoming positive because electrons are released. So that what happens, it got oxidized. The process of releasing electron is said to be oxidation. So graphite is said to be oxidized. So upon treating with sulfuric acid, graphite is oxidized. On treating with potassium, graphite is reduced. So the correct statement will be reduced in the case of potassium, oxidized in the case of sulfuric acid. Exact statement will be option number 4. Okay. So gain of electrons called reduction, loss of electrons called oxidation. On treating with potassium, it will be reduced. On treating with sulfuric acid, graphite will be oxidized. For question number 28, option number 4 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 29. The resonance Raman stretching frequency of bound oxygen species in oxyhemoerythrin and oxyhemoglobin respectively are. Okay, here two bio-inorganic molecules are provided to us. One is hemoerythrin, second is oxyhemoglobin. These two are said to be oxygen carriers, okay, which are used to transport the oxygen. Here, hemoerythrin system is provided here. So in the initial system, 2 iron atoms are there, and this is a kind of molecules where iron bonded to histidine systems within the molecule, and in the rest state iron exists in +2 oxidation state. Upon treating with oxygen, this is called deoxyhemoerythrin. On treating with oxygen, it will be converted into oxyhemoerythrin, where iron turned into +3 oxidation state, and there is a possibility of peroxy linkage. Oxygen single bond denoted as a peroxide bond. So peroxide bond when present, what they are asking for? Stretching frequency, Raman stretching frequency they are asking. So when oxygen peroxy bond is there, that peroxy bond stretching will be at 850 centimeter inverse. What is the reason? Because peroxide bond pertaining bond order of 1. So oxygen only single bond will be there. In order to stretch this bond, we need only 850 centimeter inverse Raman stretching frequency value. But when we consider oxyhemoglobin is the kind of iron which is surrounded by porphyrin ring systems, and deoxy state iron is in +2 oxidation state. When oxygen is nearing this one, what happens? Iron releases one of the electron to oxygen, so that iron turned into +3, oxygen turned into O2 minus. This O2 minus is called superoxide. O2 minus superoxide bond order pertaining to this compound oxyhemoglobin will be 1.5. When 1.5 bond order will be there, Raman stretching frequency for this kind of one end of bond, it will be increased. Compared to one bond, stretching of one end of bond will be somewhat heavier, somewhat higher energetic in nature. That's the reason why compared to hemoerythrin, here higher stretching frequency is required. That is 1100 centimeter inverse. Okay, 1100 centimeter inverse stretching frequency is required in the Raman region for this oxyhemoglobin, because here we have superoxide type of binding here, whose bond order will be 1.5, and it requires 1100 centimeter inverse. But in oxyhemoerythrin, peroxide linkage is there, bond order is 1, so that 850 Raman stretching frequency is needed. So what they are asking for, oxyhemoerythrin is given first, that is 850. Oxyhemoglobin is given next, that is 1100. Option number 1 is satisfying the question. For question number 29, option number 1 will be the right statement. Let us move on to question number 30. Here, 3 different compounds are given. Cadmium sulfide, mercury sulfide, bismuth iodide are colored. In general, cadmium, mercury, being these are D10 systems. D10 system in the sense completely filled D shell will be there. Valency electrons are completely filled. If completely filled state is there, excitation may not be possible. They should be colorless. But exceptionally, the compounds, even these are D10 systems, cadmium sulfide, mercury sulfide, bismuth iodide. Bismuth iodide is the part of, bismuth is a element of nitrogen family, right? So this is half filled. Here also excitation is somewhat difficult in general, but exceptionally these are showing colors. What could be the reason for this one? So these colors are mainly because of the process called ligand to metal charge transfer. Okay, ligand to metal charge transfer is carried so that they are exhibiting colors. The intense color of all these complexes are mainly because of ligand to metal charge transfer transition. Okay, so metal to ligand charge transfer is not possible because these ligands are not pi accepting ligands. These are sigma donor ligands. That's why we can clearly say this is a kind of LMCT. Nothing but ligand to metal charge transfer. For question number 30, option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 31. The relative rate of water exchange for hydrated complexes of nickel +2, vanadium +2, chromium +3 follows the trend. Okay, we have to predict where water exchange reaction is possible, which is more labile towards exchange the water molecule with other ligands. Already these are aqua complexes. Whenever another ligand is added, that water can be replaced with that other ligand. The process is said to be water exchange reaction, where the ease of reaction is more. For that purpose, we have one table. This is the entire table which taken from encyclopedia, where for nickel plus 2, so these are the water exchange rate of the reactions. For nickel plus 2 complex, when we are taking nickel plus 2 complex, so water exchange rate will be 3.2 into 10 to the power 4. So for nickel plus 2, what is the rate of the reaction? 3.2 into 10 to the power 4. So that is for nickel. And next is about vanadium plus 2. Whenever vanadium plus 2 complex, hexa-aquo vanadium plus 2 complex was taken, water exchange rate will be 3.7 into 10 to the power 1. And third one is chromium plus 3. When chromium plus 3 was taken, its water exchange will be 2.4 into 10 to the power minus 6. So here negative term is there, that means least water exchange will be there for this chromium. It became inert complex. So if exchange of ligand is difficult, we can say that ligand, that complex is inert. If exchange of ligand is more prone, that is said to be a labile complex. So among all the known complexes here, 10 to the power 4 value is there. Here 10 to the power 1 value is there. Here 10 to the power minus 6 is there. Where higher value 3.2 into 10 to the power 4 means nickel plus 2 having greater the extent of water exchange reaction, followed by vanadium, and the least is given for chromium, being it is negative term of 10 to the power minus 6, right? So right trend will be A will be higher and subsequently B, and the least will be for chromium C, right? So option number 1 will be the right answer for question number 31. Let us move on to question number 32. Consider the following sulfur donor atoms bearing bidentate ligand, where X and name of the ligand are given in the following columns, right? So this is the kind of bidentate ligand where two sulfur atoms will be there. By replacing this X, different kind of ligand names are provided here, right? One is Nr2, another is OR, another is O minus, and the final one will be SR. So if these functional groups are there, what kind of ligand name can be denoted? That match the following we have to do. For that purpose, first let us see this compound. In this compound, we have two sulfur atoms which can be regarded as a resonance hybrid. How can we represent? Carbon double bond S minus. Just like carboxylate, it is thiocarboxylate type of ligand is there. Okay, here both the sulfurs are prone to release electrons, so it become bidentate ligand and used to form a chelate complex with transition metals, right? So it can be exist in resonance canonical form with another. So how can we? This negative charge will be back polarized and this pi bond will be shifted so that another S minus will be generated. So it is the resonance hybrid of these two structures. Sometimes negative charge localized on sulfur. So in other instance, this negative charge will be transmitted to second sulfur. So it is the resonance hybrid which is represented in this hybrid form, just provided within the problem, So in this molecule, what we have to predict? This X. X is the functional group. Based on this X functional group, different names are denoted to these ligands. Those things to be predicted. Let us see. If X is equal to O minus, that is denoted as dithiocarbonate. What will be the name of ligand? Dithiocarbonate. So its structure will be represented in this manner, right? Double bond O S minus. This is known as dithiocarbonate. Okay, for dithiocarbonate, O minus will be the right option. Let us move on to another compound. This is dithiocarbamate. Dithiocarbonate is different from dithiocarbamate. It is a kind of amide linkage, okay, where Nr2 will be the X group. So here you can clearly observe NH2 is attached. Otherwise, you can take Nr2 even, right? So these are known as dithiocarbamates. These are known as dithiocarbamates. For dithiocarbamates, NR2 group will be there. It is a kind of amide linkage. Mate stands for amide linkage. For option number 2, A will be the right option. Let us see what is the structure of xanthates. Xanthate is nothing but where OR group is there, alkoxy group. OR stands for what? Alkoxy group. That OR group, when linked with this this functional group, that is said to be xanthate. So for this xanthate, so OR should be, alkoxy group should be added, and another one, last one will be thioxanthate. Thioxanthate is nothing but X group pertaining SR. Okay, so thioether, thioalkoxy we can say. So here is the clear structure of that compound where S double bond S minus, and here, so ethyl CH3 CH2 S group will be the X group here. This is the X group we are denoting. This is known as thioxanthate. Okay, so for thioxanthate, SR should be taken. Okay, so NR2 thiocarbamate, A with 2, OR with alkoxy group with xanthate, B with 3, O minus thiocarbonate, C with 1, and SR with thioxanthate, D with 4. Option number 1 is satisfying the entire statement. So for question number 32, option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to next question. Question number 33. In vitro reaction of an excess of oxygen with free heme in the aqueous medium, the end product is, what we are doing? We are taking starting material of heme that is added with oxygen. The condition will be excess of oxygen is added. Already we know, we are familiar that hemoglobin is a colored pigment which is present in our red blood cells and which is very essential for oxygen transportation in the entire body, right? So here condition provided is oxygen is in excess quantity than required. In that case, there is a formation of hematin. Once heme turned into hematin, that will not susceptible for oxygen transportation. So that fails to transport the oxygen. So that's the reason why. So hematin is not the required compound for the oxygen transportation in our blood. Okay, let us see how hematin will be generated from this heme. Already we know heme is the porphyrin ring system having central metal iron surrounded by porphyrin rings, and here we have carboxylic acids, vinyl groups are there, and even methyl groups are present within the structure. This is a kind of porphyrin ring system where iron plus 2 oxidation state will be there. This is a kind of deoxyhemoglobin state. When it turned into hematin where iron is occupied by oxygen with OH group. So this will not be removed from the system. This is a stable bond with iron, so that oxygen transportation is not possible. Now iron turned into +3 state. So this is heme and this is hematin, right? So if excess of oxygen consumed by heme, then there is a possibility of hematin formation. Let us see how it could be proceeded. Deoxyhemoglobin is in iron plus 2 state and bounded to porphyrin ring system, just seen in the structure. Now it is binded to oxygen. That oxygen binding is possible, and iron turned into +3 oxidation state is +2. Iron should be in the +3 oxidation state, right? So iron should be in the +3 oxidation state because oxyhemoglobin is +3, deoxyhemoglobin is +2 oxidation state. Right. Now, this oxyhemoglobin is treated with deoxyhemoglobin of another molecule, so that there is a formation of a bridged compound like this. A bridged compound formation is possible where iron +3 is there and also another iron +3 is there. Both are linked by one oxygen. Both are linked by one oxygen. This is called hematin, where two iron systems are linked by oxygen and both the iron systems are present in +3 state. and the final product generated is called a hematine, right? So in this way, heme turned into hematine by the treatment with excess of oxygen. For question number 33, option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 34. C13 NMR spectrum of DMSO D6 gives a signal at 39.7 ppm as A. So we have to predict a peak multiplicity. So how many multiple peaks are present in that DMSO D6 compound in C13 NMR spectrum? In order to predict that, first we have to know what is DMSO D6. This is the structure of DMSO D6. S double bond O, CD3 will be there. Okay, so this DMSO D6 can be expanded as hexadeuterated dimethyl sulfoxide. Hexadeuterated dimethyl sulfoxide is the chemical name of this compound. It gives the peak at 39.7 ppm in C13 NMR spectrum, right? So in order to predict peak multiplicity, we have to apply the formula. Empirical formula will be 2Ni plus 1. Okay, so let us apply for only one CD3. Only one CD3. For this functional group, we are applying 2Ni plus 1. N stands for how many atoms are present. How many deuterium atoms are there? 3 deuterium atoms. 2 into 3. So I value, I is nothing but angular momentum quantum number. For deuterium, the value will be 1. For hydrogen, the value will be half. Deuterium I is equal to 1. Hence, we can write 2 into 3 into I is equal to 1 plus 1. So 2 into 3, 6. 6 plus 1, it will be 7. So for CD3, peak multiplicity is calculated as 7. 7 stands for septate, right? If 2 is there, that is called doublet. 3 is there, triplet. 4 is there, quadrate. 5 is there, pentate. 6 is there, heptate. 7 is there, it is called septate. Okay, 7 is there, that is called septate. For CD3, septate will be there. Being CD3, both the CD3 are equivalent in nature. Both are said to be identical. That's why this compound will give only one peak, because both the CD3 molecules are identical in nature. So only one peak, that is split into 7 peaks. Here it is clearly represented in the spectrum. So single peak split into 7 subpeaks. This is called peak multiplicity, right? These 7 peaks are provided within the single peak, that is called peak multiplicity. If 7 are there, it is called a septate. For DMSO D6, the right answer will be 4, right? So DMSO D6 will give septate. So it is calculated based on the formula 2Ni plus 1. For question number 34, option 4 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 35, where we are taking organic chemistry question, and it is the saturated thiophene ring and having substitution, allyl substitution at the second place, right? So saturated thiophene with the second position allyl compound is treated with allyl iodide in the presence of potassium tertiary butoxide. So in this, it transformed into 8-membered ring system, right? So we have to predict what kind of reaction it is. It is a part of what kind of reaction we have to predict. In order to get this transformation, we have to go through its reaction mechanism. When we observe the reaction mechanism, so initially this 2-allyl system of thiophene, saturated thiophene was taken and treated with this allyl iodide. So already we are familiar that sulfur is the system having 2 lone pair of electrons, which used to treat with this one alkyl halide, so that S alkylation got carried. It will be S alkylated. Upon S alkylation, it is converted into S positive, because lone pair electrons involved in the sigma bond formation, right? That's why S is turned into S positive. Now what we will do? We have to perform 2,3 sigmatropic rearrangement. What is meant by sigmatropic rearrangement? So molecular rearrangement where sigma bonded atoms flanked one or more pi electron system can be shifted to new location and reorganization within the molecule is said to be a sigmatropic rearrangement. Here the system having 1, 2, 3 and here we have 1, 2. So it is a kind of 2, 3 sigmatropic rearrangement. How can we fragment? Here this bond will be cleaved in between so that these able to convert into double bond here, and this entire group is shifted towards this one, and here this is turned into a double bond where we will get at the second center, at the third center, new carbon carbon bond will be generated, and in between sigma bond is there, this will be cleaved so that ring expansion will be carried. Let us count from this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There is a possibility of closed 8-membered ring system having this side chain of allyl group. This is converted into allyl group now, right? 8-membered ring system will be generated, and in this here one double bond will be there. That double bond is originated in this molecule. So here 8-membered ring system is originated because of 2, 3 sigmatropic rearrangement. So this kind of reaction transformation is the part of 2, 3 sigmatropic shift. For question number 35, option number 2 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 36. Among following the synthetic equivalents of acetyl anion. So acetyl anion is like this: CH3C double bond O minus is called acetyl anion. Then what is meant by synthetic equivalent? The reagent carrying out the fraction of synthon which resembles the existing molecule is called the synthetic equivalent. If there is a similarity, if there is a comparison, that is said to be a synthetic equivalent. Then what is meant by synthon? Synthon is a small fragment which is generated regarded as the basis of synthetic procedure. That will be the starting material, that will be the cationic, that will be the anionic species. So in order to facilitate the reaction, one starting material is required. That starting material is taken as a, denoted as a synthon, right? So here when we are taking this acetyl anion, its synthetic equivalents will be either ethyl nitrate or acetylene. Upon treating with base, they got converted into, here alpha hydrogen are more acidic, so that this converted into corresponding carbene. Whenever acetylene treated with base, it is converted into CH triple bond C minus. So in both the cases, carbene will be generated which having similar kind of nature, just like acetyl anion. Acetyl anion synthetic equivalents are, one is ethyl nitrate, second is acetylene. Both are synthetic equivalents only, right? So within the given options, option number 4 is a ethyl nitrate. This is a synthetic equivalence. When we are taking starting compound by discarding chloride, what happens here? You will get C minus only. Just it is identical, it is not similar. There is a difference between identical nature and similarity. Similar means both are looking like same, but both are not exactly same. Okay, so it's called a synthetic equivalence. Okay, so that's the reason why option number 4 is the right answer for this question number 36. Right? So this will be the synthetic equivalent, ethyl nitrate. Let us move on to question number 37. Following reaction is an example of, we are taking, this is the kind of polycyclic system, and this is the it is the bridged compound. It is a bicyclic system with a double bond, and this is another double bonded compound with a tetracyanofunctional groups. Both the compounds are subjected to heating, so that one tricyclic ring system will be generated. It is the photochemistry concerted reaction mechanism. We have to go with its mechanism so that we can predict what kind of system will be involved in this cycloaddition. Okay, cycloaddition reaction, it is the better example for cycloaddition only, but how many electrons participated in this is the thing we have to predict. For that purpose, we have to observe its mechanism. This double bond is polarized towards this side. Here the new double bond is originated, and this pi bond is migrated, and this pi bond is migrated, this pi bond is migrated. Whenever double bond lost, so that this carbon of dithione system will attain positive charge, and here carbon is localized with negative charge. So dipolar ion will be generated in this bicyclic system. And one more substance is given, that is ene. Okay, so tetracyanoethene was given. So we have to polarize the electrons towards this side. Being it is a symmetric, you can polarize either towards this side or this side. But specifically, we are polarizing towards this side because already we have negative charge here, positive charge here. In order to form a synchronized bond, this bond should be polarized in this manner, so that there is a formation of new carbon-carbon single bond in between these two carbon atoms. A new 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-membered ring system is originated in between these 5 carbon atoms, so that we will get this system, tricyclic system is obtained in this manner. Then let us see, in first molecule, how many electrons are participated? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How many pi electrons are participating in bond delocalization? 8. In the second molecule, how many electrons are participating? 2 electrons. Hence, it is a kind of 8 plus 2 cycloaddition. It is a kind of 8 plus 2 cycloaddition, so that a cyclic product formation is possible. And there is a provision, there is some certain guidelines in order to give thermal or photochemical condition. Okay, so for the electron system, cycloaddition system, if even electron pairs participated, photochemical conditions are favorable. If odd number of electron pairs are participating in the cycloaddition, thermal conditions are favorable. Let us see how many electron pairs are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 electron pairs are there. It is a kind of odd electron system. Hence, we can say thermal conditions are preferable here. So that 8 plus 2 cycloaddition, under thermal conditions, 2 different molecules got converted into a tricyclic system. So for question number 37, option number 4 will be the right answer. Right? Let us move on to question number 38. Again, it is a part of organic chemistry, where we are taking cyclohexanone having in either 4-membered ring at 4th position. Under protic conditions, under acidic conditions, what will be the product? So in order to get this, we have to check the mechanism of the reaction. In this, so cyclohexanone system, when H plus is added, the electrons present on the oxygen will abstract the H plus and convert it into oxonium ion. And the next step, what we will do, this pi bond will be shifted towards oxygen, so that carbocation, and this bond, 4-membered being it is a more strained structure, this cyclic system is easily cleaved, so that there is a ring expansion kind of reaction is possible. Now, 4-membered ring expanded into 5-membered ring system, and back polarization of electrons, here we will get OH group at the bridge head center. So one 5-membered ring and either 6-membered ring is there within the molecule, but one of the carbon is experiencing loss of electrons by the cleavage of bond. It is a positive charged carbon. Let us denote the numbering. So first carbon having OH group, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth. So this is about the order of denoting atomic numbers. Sorry, not atomic numbers. So position of carbon atoms. Okay. So here 9 carbon atoms are present within the entire system. One is 5-membered, one is 6-membered ring is generated the bridgehead carbocation. Now what we will do? The sigma bond get cleaved at this position, and these electrons are mobilized towards this side, and this turned into a 5-membered ring system in this manner. 5-membered ring system is created, but during the cleavage, this carbon losing electrons, hence we have to denote with carbocation, positive charge. This carbocation is highly stabilized because in the entire system is in secondary carbocation, and here OH group is also there. All are stabilizing this nature of electron deficiency here. Now we can represent this in the form of ketonic form by liberating one of the H plus, because initial reaction we consumed H plus, that will be back emitted and it turned into a ketonic functional group. 2 5-membered rings with 1 ketonic functional group is the final product of this reaction. For this question number 38, Option number 4 is satisfying this product. So option number 4 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 39. Most stable conformation of 2-fluoroethanol. So here, 6-membered ring system ball and stick model is provided to us. In this, 3 different conformations will be there. This is a kind of conformational isomerism. Conformational isomerism is nothing but isomers which are originated because carbon-carbon single bond rotation. Upon carbon-carbon single bond rotation, functional group positions will be varied so that different conformer isomers are generated, right? So here, 3 different conformers are, one is eclipsed, second is staggered, third is Gaussian. Eclipsed are nothing but if functional groups are present in the inclined manner, all are in the same position like this, it is said to be eclipsed one. All the functional groups are clumsy in nature. 0 degrees dihedral angle will be there. Okay. So if this is rotated 60 degrees, what happens? Some extent of what separation will be there. And here, Gaussian conformation is obtained in the second one. In third also again eclipsed conformation is there. In fourth we have OH and fluoro group both are in 180 degrees angle. This is called a staggered conformation and anti-conformation. Both the functional groups are 180 with respect to each other, so that it is a staggered anti-conformation. Then among all the 4 options, which is the stable conformation we have to predict. In order to get that, we have to see in this second compound, this is a kind of Gaussian staggered. This is a kind of Gaussian staggered. It will be more stable because exceptional bond formation. This is a kind of bond called hydrogen bond formation. What is meant by hydrogen bond? The electronegative elements which are in the suitable orientation with the hydrogens linked to electronegative atoms, so able to form the weak interactive bonds called hydrogen bonds. So this is known as hydrogen bonding. Only 3 elements in the periodic table are susceptible to participate in the hydrogen bonding. One is fluorine, second is oxygen, third is nitrogen, right? So here we have fluorine and adjacent position hydrogens are there, so that there is a possibility of this weak interactions which are denoted with dotted lines. It is not a strong bond, but some kind of interactive bond will be originated here. Because of this one, this is known as intramolecular hydrogen bonding. This is known as intramolecular hydrogen bonding. Because of this one, it will become highly stable. Because of this hydrogen bonding only, water exists in liquid state. Why naturally available water exists in liquid state? Because of this type of hydrogen bonding. Here also such a bonding will be there, so that it will be more stable, right? For question number 39, option number 2 will be the right answer. So Gaussian staggered form will be more stable. Actually, this form will be least stable when antiposition. In general, antiposition will be more stable because of far separation. But because of intramolecular hydrogen bonding, compound 2 will become more stable. Let us move on to question number 40. IUPAC name of the following compound. This compound is given to us where we have bicyclic system and boron system was given. How many atoms are present in the molecule? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 atoms are there within the molecule. How many? 9 atoms are there. In this 9 atom system, what we have? Boron is the bridging ligand which used to form a bicyclic ring system. Okay. What is the position of boron? 9. Why it is not denoted with number 1 rather than number 9? Because so here carbon atom, here boron atom is there. So this atomic number assignment is possible based on its atomic number. So boron followed by carbon will be there. Okay. So boron followed by carbon will be there. So carbon will get the higher number when compared to boron. So numbering will be started from carbon itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 membered ring system it is. And so when we consider this bridgehead carbon, one side how many atoms are there? 3 atoms. In either side also we have 3 atoms. And on this we have on this ring system we have 1 atom. Okay, so this is represented in a square bracket. What is the position of boron? So boron is positioned at 9th. So 9 boro, and it is the system of bicyclic. So hence you can mention bicyclo. So one side 3 atoms, any other side 3 atoms, and the next side 1 atom is there. 3, 3, 1. 3, 3, 1. And if 9-membered system is there, we have to assign nonene. This is assigned as nonene. 9 boro bicyclo 3, 3, 1 nonene. So option number 1 will be the right answer for question number 40, right? So let us move on to next question. The correct natural product, column 1, their biosynthetic precursor. Only 2 compounds are given, but 4 options are given. Okay. So biosynthetic precursor is nothing but what will be the starting material in order to synthesize these products through the natural product extraction. So biosynthesis is nothing but, so in the natural process, what will be the starting material in order to form these final products? One is menthol, second is anabasine. So these two are the natural products. So this first one is called a terpenoid. Second one is called alkaloid. So this is a part of alkaloids and terpenoids of organic chemistry, natural products. And these are the starting materials. So from these 4, we have to predict what will be the starting material to synthesize these materials. So this is the anabasine, where we have pyridine ring and also piperidine ring. Okay, so pyridine pyrrolidine alkaloid type of system, and this is the material present in the tobacco plant, and it is very essential insecticide. It used to retard the growth of insects, so hence you can say it is the insecticide. Okay, so in order to synthesize this one, the starting material required is lysine. Lysine is the amino acid. So from this lysine, anabasine alkaloid will be synthesized, right? Anabasine alkaloid will be synthesized. For B1 is the correct one. B1 is the correct one. So let us see menthol. This is the menthol. So it is the cyclic terpenoid system. L minus menthol is a naturally occurring one. Geranyl pyrophosphate will be the biosynthetic precursor. So geranyl pyrophosphate will be the starting material to synthesize this L-menthol, right? So this menthol will be synthesized from geranyl pyrophosphate. A with 4. Option number 1 will be the right answer. So for question number 41, option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 42. It is a part of acid-base reactions, acids and bases. Okay. So in order to get that, in order to predict the correct order of pKa values, if you observe all this, one is aniline treated with H+, that is converted into anilinium ion. And the second one is isopropyl. 2 isopropyl groups are there around the nitrogen. This is a kind of secondary amine. And here also secondary amine, but nitrogen surrounded by 2 benzene rings. Among all, we have to predict their pKa values. There are certain trends in order to predict the pKa values. pKa values always reciprocal to Ka values. Ka is nothing but acidic strength. Okay, pKa is nothing but it is a reciprocal of Ka. Okay, so first we have to know about conjugate acid base theory so that it will be very clear. If initially strong base is there, whenever H+ is added, it turned into a weak acid. Stronger the base, its conjugate acid will be weak in nature. Conjugate in the sense, if any 2 compounds which are differentiated by only one H+ is known as conjugate pair. Okay. Stronger the base, conjugate acid will be weak. Stronger the acid, conjugate base will be weak. Okay. So in this case, in this way we can predict. So let us see. So whenever isopropyl amine was taken, isopropyl amine basicity will be very large when compared to these two, because it is of aliphatic system. So nitrogen, so how the basicity of amine will be predicted based on what? Ease of electron releasing tendency. Isopropyl being it is an electron releasing nature, electron releasing compound, what happens? It will increase the electron density on the nitrogen so that it will become more stronger base. In case of benzene ring, benzene having tendency to pull the electrons from nitrogen, so that ease of electron releasing will be reduced to some extent. In case of diphenylamine, again what happens? More two rings are there in order to extract the electrons from nitrogen, so that basicity will be still low, right? So in this way, the correct order will be isopropyl, followed by phenyl, followed by biphenylamine will be there. So this is about the trend in the basicity. Now we are protonating. Upon protonation, they get converted into their corresponding acids. Stronger the base, conjugate acid will be weak. Means entire order will be inverted. What we can say? So this is a strong base. Isopropyl is a strong base. It's a conjugate acid. So N is protonated now. It turned into NH2 positive. It's a conjugated acid becomes what? Weak. And when we are taking aniline, so it is turned into anilinium, so that it will be somewhat stronger. And weakest base among the known by protonation, it will be turned into strongest conjugate acid. So acidic trend will be in this manner. Acidic trend is increased in this manner. When acidic trend is increased, what is the trend? Acidity is reciprocal of pKa. Greater the acidity, lesser the pKa. Whose pKa will be less now? Again, it will be inverted. What we will do? Isopropyl will be highest, followed by NH3 positive will be next, and least is given for this biphenyl compound. Right? So this is the right order of pKa values. Isopropyl amine will be having highest pKa, and next phenylamine, and next diphenylamine. So isopropyl will be highest, phenyl next diphenylamine. So for question number 42, option number 2 will be the right answer. This is option number 2 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 43. Among the following natural product, that is a steroid, contains alpha beta unsaturated ketone. So steroids are the compounds secreted in the body which are termed as the hormones, and these are very essential to reduce the inflammations. Whatever inflammations are there, those can be treated by using these steroids, right? So these may be produced within the body, otherwise can be synthesized in the pharmaceutical industries even, right? What they're asking, alpha beta unsaturated ketone. What is the alpha beta unsaturated ketone among all the given options? So the correct answer will be cortisone, because the cortisone structure will be like this. It is the tetracyclic ring where we have double bond O, which is in conjugation with double bond. So at alpha and beta position, double bond is there. It is the example for alpha beta unsaturated carbonyl compound. This is known as cortisone, right? Among the following natural products, steroid and contains alpha beta unsaturated ketone is the cortisone. For question number 43, option number 3 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 44. The major product formed in the following reaction. This is called a quinoline, right? Heterocyclic system. So bicyclic heterocyclic system, and treated with lithium in liquid ammonia. Lithium dissolved in liquid ammonia. So this is a Birch reduction. Birch reduction is always 1,4 hydrogen addition is possible, right? And here two ring systems are there. One is benzenoid system, another is a pyridine ring system. Among these two, which will be reduced, which is selectively reduced, we have to predict. In order to get this, here benzene ring is associated with 6 pi electrons. The pyridine ring is associated with 4 pi electron system. Where the electron density is less, in this pyridine ring, electron density will be less. That's the reason why this less electron density system will be conveniently treated with this Birch reducing agent, because in this reduction, lithium liquid ammonia is releasing electrons. In order to take the electrons, electron density should be less. That's why pyridine ring selectively reduced rather than benzene, right? And mechanism will be depicted here. When we are taking this pyridine ring, lithium dissolved in liquid ammonia, electron will be added at this fourth center, so that odd electron will be generated, because homolytic fusion of the bond will be possible, and here negative charge is generated, and this will be added with H plus, because the reduction process hydrogens will be added, and here hydrogen will be added, and in the next again one more electron will be added and turned into H minus, and here also hydrogen will be added. So when electron is added, it is turned into nitrogen, turned into minus, addition of H plus, NH formation is possible, and here one more odd electron is there. By the addition of one more electron from this lithium, being it is a one electron donor, so it releases electrons, solvated electrons will be released here, and carbon negative will be generated, which will be added with this H plus, so that 1,4 dihydro compound will be generated. This is called Birch reduction, right? So in this manner, product will be obtained, and the product will be selectively option 2. For question number 44, option 2 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 45. The major product formed in the sodium ethoxide mediated reaction between benzophenone and ethyl chloroacetate. Here, two components are given. One is benzophenone, second is ethyl chloroacetate. When these two get treated, what will be the product? Let us see. I'm taking benzophenone. Upon treating with this chloroacetate, what is the another compound? Ethyl chloroacetate. This is a kind of ethyl chloroacetate. Here chloro, here ester. Both the electron withdrawing groups are there. Hence, this carbon is highly acidic in nature, active methylene carbon. So this carbene will be attached to carbonylic center, and here the formation of O minus. This O minus will be cyclized, and subsequent chloro group elimination from the system, so that this will be epoxide. This is said to be a epoxide. For question number 47, option number 3 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 46. The major product formed in the following reaction. This is a kind of naphthalene system having another ring system, 5-membered ring system at this position. Now it is treated with N-bromosuccinamide of 2 equivalents. Upon photochemical conditions dissolving carbon tetrachloride and reflex conditions, what will be the product we have to predict? N-bromosuccinamide is a selective reagent for allylic bromination. NBS is a selective brominating agent for allylic bromination. Allylic position is nothing but the carbon adjacent to double bond is called allylic. In this system, here one carbon adjacent to double bond, this carbon adjacent to double bond. 2 allylic positions are there. 2 equivalents of NBS provided. That's why here these 2 carbons are added with bromo. So the dibromo product formation is possible. There is a vicinal dibromo rather than gem dibromo, because if we are adding 2 bromo on the same carbon, high steric repulsions will be there. That's the reason why 2 bromo should be separately added. For question number 46, option number 2 will be the right answer. Let us see the detailed mechanism of the reaction. For this purpose, we are treating with N-bromosuccinamide. This will be N-bromosuccinamide 5-membered ring system. Upon homolytic fission, N free radical and bromine free radical will be generated. Upon treating with bromine radical, it will pull H hydrogens from the allylic positions. Allyl carbon free radicals will be originated, so that it will be treated with 2 bromine radicals, and there is a addition is possible, and a dibromo product will be generated in this manner, right? For question number 46, option number 2 will be the right answer. Dibromo product formation is possible. Let us move on to question number 47. Consider a particle in its ground state confined to one-dimensional box in the interval of 0,8. The probability of finding between 4 minus delta by 2 and 4 plus delta by 2 is closure to. Delta is sufficiently smaller so that the wave function can be taken as a constant in this interval. Wave function is taken as the constant. So for particle in a one-dimensional box, there is an equation En is equal to n square h square by 8 ml squared. By using this formula, it is possible to predict this probability of the finding of particles. Here, n stands for the energy level of the system. So in which level energy, in which level this particle is present. Here 2 different conditions are provided to us. One is 4.0 minus 2, 4.0 plus delta by 2. Two conditions are provided to us, right? So let us take En is equal to n1 square h square by 8 ml square, n2 square h square by 8 ml square. Both the conditions are provided to us, right? Now we have to predict this energy difference between two energy levels, E2 minus E1. Nothing but 4.0 plus delta by 2 h square by 8 ml square minus 4.0 minus delta by 2 h square by 8 ml square, right? So when these two difference was taken, what happens? It can be expanded in this manner. How can we expand? Minus 4.0, minus into minus, it will become plus delta by 2, and this will become minus h square by 8 ml square. It will become minus h square by 8 ml square. Minus into minus, it will become minus only, right? So what it will happen? Plus 4 minus 4 both get cancelled. Delta plus delta by 2 plus delta by 2. It will become plus delta by 4. So here we have plus h square by 8 ml square. Here minus h square by 8 ml square. Both the terms will be cancelled. Only the leftover thing is delta by 2 plus delta by 2. Nothing but delta by 4. This will be the right answer. So for question number 47, option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to next question, 48. It is a part of quantum mechanics. Which of the following function below is a common eigenfunction of d by dx and d square by dx square operators, right? So in this, we have to predict what is the common eigenfunction. In order to get that, we have the formula. Hamiltonian operator into eigenfunction is equal to eigenvalue into constant. What is that? H psi is equal to A psi. What is the formula? H psi is equal to A psi. H is given by Hamiltonian operator whose dimensions are d by dx or d square by dx square. H is equal to d by dx or d square by dx square. H psi is equal to A psi. Nothing but d by dx into e to the power a into x is equal to a into e to the power ax. So this is the substitution of values in this equation. H value is nothing but d by dx or d square by dx square. So it can be taken as d by dx, and psi value is e to the power ax. A is nothing but constant itself. Psi is nothing but e to the power ax. Here, d by dx or d square by dx square operator, for this common eigenfunction will be e to the power ax. This e to the power ax can also represented as e to the power ix also, where a or I is taken as the constant only, right? So d by dx, what is the suitable eigenfunction? E to the power ix is the suitable eigenfunction. It is a part of quantum mechanics, from which it is derived. H psi is equal to A psi. Okay, we have to substitute Hamiltonian operator and also psi value so that we will get the clarity about this problem. For question number 48, number 3 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 49. It is a part of phase rule, physical chemistry. A one component system with the associated phase diagram is not possible because, so the phase diagram is provided and temperature and pressure coordinates were taken and 4 different phases are provided here. The curves are 4 and even phases are 4, and the system is given as one component. So alpha, beta, gamma and delta, 4 different phases are provided. For one component system, in practical sense, 4 phases may not be possible. I'm taking the simplest example, that is water system. When water phase diagram was considered, water exists in 3 different phases. One is solid, liquid and gas. Solid ice will be there, liquid water will be there, gas water vapor will be there. So beyond that, 4th state will not exist. That's the reason why this will not be existed. What will be the right statement? OB, OC, OD cannot all coexist given OA. OB, OC, OA, OD, all these states are coexistence possible. That's the reason why 4 phases in one component system is not applicable, right? So for question number 49, option number 4 is the right answer. A phase transition process is always, phase transition is nothing but conversion of one physical state into another is said to be a phase transition. Either solid to liquid, liquid to gas, gas to solid, that kind of transformation is said to be a phase transition. In order to perform phase transition, I am taking again water system as an example, where temperature versus pressure is plotted. Means by varying temperature and pressure, it is possible to attain that kind of phase transition. Ice can be transformed into water, water can be shifted into water vapor, and water vapor to ice transformation is possible. So in this way, what are the important parameters for this phase transition? One is thermal condition, second is pressure condition. So thermal condition is said to be isothermal, pressure condition is said to be isobaric. So for question number 50, option number 4 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 51. The correct statement for any cyclic thermodynamic process. The correct statement for any cyclic thermodynamic process. If you are taking a cyclic process, internal energy change will become 0. For a cyclic system, internal energy change will become 0. What is internal energy term? du is equal to 0. Let us see. A cyclic process system returns to initial state. Starting stage to initial state is possible because cyclic in the sense starting material to again final product will become starting material only. Then only cycle will be closed, right? So there is no reversibility will be there. That's why we can say internal energy change becomes 0. So if delta U is equal to 0 for first law of thermodynamics, delta Q is equal to delta U plus P delta V, nothing but delta W. This is the equation for first law of thermodynamics. Delta Q to 0 plus delta W, being it is internal energy change becomes 0. We have to substitute that when delta Q is equal to 0 plus delta W. So simply we can write delta Q is equal to delta W. Okay. So heat change is given by, so change in the work. So for this purpose, for cyclic thermodynamic process, internal energy change becomes 0. For question number 51, option number 3 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 52. Metallic silver crystallizes in face-centered cubic lattice structure, unit cell length of 40 nanometers. First order diffraction angle, X-ray beam from 210 plane of the silver is 30 degrees. The wavelength of X-ray used is closure to, right? So it is the application of Bragg's equation, solid state chemistry. So X-ray diffraction parameters are provided to us. Based on this, for this FCC lattice, we have to depict the wavelength. The lambda value is needed to be calculated. For that purpose, the given parameters are for FCC lattice silver, what plane is provided? 2, 1, 0 Miller-Indies plane is provided. And the unit cell length A is denoted with 40 nanometers. First order diffraction angle, theta will be 30 degrees. And we are familiar that Bragg's equation is equal to n lambda is equal to 2d sine theta. What is the equation? N lambda is equal to 2d sine theta. So here d is nothing but distance, which is given by a by root h square k square plus l square. Okay. So these are Miller-Indices parameters for face-centered cubic. So h, k, l are nothing but 210. So for this Miller-Indices plane, h, k, l values will be 2, 1, 0. Now d is equal to a by under root 2 square plus 1 square plus 0 square. So 2 square is nothing but 4 plus 1 square is nothing but 1. So a by under root 4. Sorry, a by under root 5 it will be, right? So when we add these to what happens? A by under root 5 it will be. Let us substitute this d value in the Bragg's equation. N lambda is equal to 2d sine theta. N lambda is equal to 2 into d is given by a by under root 2 square plus 1 square plus 0 square into sine theta. What is theta value? Unit cell diffraction angle is given by 30 degrees. So sine 30 degrees is provided to us, right? So 2 into A value. What is unit cell length? 40 nanometers. So 2 into 40 by root 2 square nothing but 5 plus 1 square nothing but 1 itself. So it will be 5 under root 5 will be the value of this one. Okay. Next sine 30 value will be half. Sine 30 is equal to half. Now lambda is equal to 2 into 40 divided by under root 5 into 1 by 2. When we substitute all the values, lambda value is predicted as 17.83. Okay, 17.83 almost is equal to 18 nanometers. So this is purely the application of Bragg's equation, where we are taking all the given data and substituting in that equation. We are predicting wavelength lambda value as 18 nanometers. For question number 52, option number 2 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 53. If pre-exponential factor Arrhenius equation 1.6 into 10 to the power 12, the value of rate constant at extremely high temperature is closer to, right? Pre-exponential factor is provided, value of rate constant is needed to be calculated. So this is the kind of, it is the application of Arrhenius equation. What is Arrhenius equation? K is equal to A into e to the power minus EA by RT. This is the Arrhenius equation. K denotes rate constant of the reaction. A is the pre-exponential factor. E is the base E of logarithm. And EA is the activation energy. R is the gaseous constant. T is the temperature on the Kelvin scale. These are the parameters which are present in the Arrhenius equation. K is equal to A into e to the power minus EA by RT, right? So in this equation, what we have to do? We have to depict the rate constant. K value should be depicted. For that purpose, A is provided within the problem. What is A value? 1.6 into 10 to the power 12. E to the power minus EA by RT. R gas constant value is 8.314 and what is the temperature? Extremely high temperature is provided. Extremely high temperature is taken as the T is equal to infinite. Extremely high temperature is denoted as infinity. So 1 by infinity value always taken as any term. So any term by infinity always taken as 0, right? So that's the reason why let us substitute this alpha value in this equation. So this infinity value in this equation, K is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power 12. So this infinity value is 0. That's why this entire term becomes a 0 only. So 1.6 into 10 to the power 10 to the power 12 into e to the power 0, right? So now e to the power 0 is nothing but 1. So what we will do? K is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the power 12. So this will be the right answer. So 1.6 into 10 to the power 12, because purely high temperature conditions, high temperature can be taken as infinity. So 1 by infinity value always 0. If minus EA by 8.314 into 0, this entire term becomes a 0. That's the reason why here rate constant is taken as 1.6 into 10 to the power 12 second inverse. For question number 53, option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 54. In kinetic study of chemical reactions, slopes are drawn at different times in the plot of concentration of reactant versus time. The magnitude of slope with increase in the time. Okay. So kinetic study of chemical reaction. So kinetic study of chemical. When any reaction was taken, when any reaction I'm taking, A tends to convert it into the product B. Okay. So A is regarded as the reactant, B is denoted as the product, right? So kinetic study is nothing but how much time required in order to convert the reactant into product. The interrelation between the concentration and the time of reactant and products are mainly deals with this kinetic study of any chemical reaction. Okay. So during the chemical reaction, reactants are converted into the product. That's the reason why slowly reactant concentration will be lowered, product concentration will be increased. So in this way, gradually reactant is consumed and product will be produced. So this is clearly mentioned in this graph. Reactant concentration is slowly decreasing and the product concentration is slowly increasing. So what they are asking, in the kinetic study of chemical reaction, slopes are drawn different times, plots of concentration versus reaction time. The magnitude of slope with increase at the time. In terms of reactant, they are asking. In terms of reactant. So during the chemical reaction, always reactant concentration will be lowered because product formation increasing by consuming reactant only, right? That's why reactant concentration will be lowered and the product concentration will be increased. So here reactant concentration will be decreased is the right statement. Option number 3 will be the right statement. Sometimes it remains unchanged because if reaction is not feasible, in that case reactant remains as such, so it will not be changed. But in most of the cases, reactant slowly converted into product so that its concentration will be decreased. For question number 54, option number 3 is the right answer. Let us move on to question number 55. It is a part of electrochemistry. The electrochemical cell potential after the reactants and products reach equilibrium is. So here equilibrium condition is given here. We have to depict standard electrode potential value. Electrochemical cell potential value needed to be predicted. For that purpose, we have the formula delta G is equal to minus NFE. Delta G is equal to minus NFE. Delta G stands for change in the free energy of the reaction. F is the Faraday. N is the number of electrons transferred, nothing but valency. E naught is nothing but standard electrode potential. There is a condition. At the equilibrium, delta G value becomes 0. At the equilibrium, what is the value of delta G? Delta G is equal to 0. So what happens? If delta G is equal to 0, so minus NFE is equal to 0. If minus NFE is equal to 0, then E cell is equal to 0 by minus NF. So 0 by minus NF, nothing but 0 itself. That's why E cell is equal to 0. So because the conditions provided are equilibrium conditions, so for question number 55, option number 4 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 56. For electronic configuration 1s2, 2s2, 2p4, two of the possible term symbols are S1 and P3. The remaining term symbol is, okay, here term symbol is needed to be predicted. For that purpose, so we have the formula for the prediction of term symbol. Here, what is the element? What is the electronic configuration? 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. So in the valency shell, p electrons are 4. 4 p electrons are filled in this manner. So how it will be? 1, 2, 3 and 4 electrons will be there. So here magnetic angular quantum moment numbers are +1, 0, -1. So here 1 + 1, 1 - 1 get cancelled and 1 more +1 is there. So L value is taken as 1. And S value is nothing but spin magnetic quantum number. So MS it is. ML value is 1. MS, so here spin it will be 1 only because these two electrons got cancelled and here 1 plus half, totally it becomes S is equal to 1 only, right? So if we apply in the formula 2Ni plus 1, spin multiplicity is calculated taking 2Ni plus 1, 2 into S value is 1 plus 1. So 2 into 1, 2 plus 1, 3. Okay, 2s plus 1 value is 3 and L is equal to 1. L is equal to 0 denoted with S. L is equal to 1 is a P. The term symbol will be P. P to the power 2s plus 1. 2s plus 1, what is the value given? 3. And denominator will be J. So more than half filled, J value will be L plus S. Less than half filled, L minus S. More than half filled, L plus S will be taken. 1 plus 1, it will become 2 only, right? 3p2 is the ground state electronic term symbol for this 1s2, 2s2, 2p4, which already provided within the problem only. 3p is already given to us. And 1s is also given. 1s is also given because S electron if denoted, 1s is also given. And another parameter is if we are taking the range from -2 to +2, ml value taken from -2 to +2, the signal S is equal to 0. So signal S is equal to 0. In that case, there is possibility of. So L is equal to the value taken as 2. If L is equal to 2, what is the parameter? D is the parameter. right? So in this case, so spin is taken as 0. When we apply 2s plus 1 formula, 2s plus 1 formula, 2 into 0 plus 1. 2 into 0, what is the value? 0 itself, plus 1 becomes 1 only. So the spin multiplicity is taken as 1. L is equal to 2. That's the reason why we are taking D is the term symbol, and its spin multiplicity taken as a 1 because the spin value is taken as 0. 2s plus 1 value become 1. So 1D is the another term symbol for this given electronic configuration. So for question number 56, option number 1 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 57. The V is equal to 0 to 1 vibrational rotational spectrum of diatomic molecule exhibit transition R is equal to 0, R is equal to 1, P is equal to 1, P is equal to 2 lines at 2242, 2254, 2216, 2203 respectively. From this data, we can conclude that the molecule is A. Here, this is the data provided. I collected this answer from NPTEL lecture, where here V0 to V1. V0 to V1, that means a ground state vibrational level to excited state vibrational level, electronic transitions are indicated in this manner. Electronic transitions are indicated in this manner. And the energy is given by E vibrational energy is equal to U plus half into H nu. So if electrons satisfy this energy parameter, then only excitation from ground level vibrational energy level to excited vibrational energy transition is possible, right? So these are the various energy levels provided within the system: P5, P4, P3, P2, P1, Q, R0, R1, R2, R3. These are called P bands. This is called Q band. These are called R bands. These many rotational transitions are possible for diatomic molecule, and these transitions are said to be vibrational rotational transitions. During this vibration, they also associated with rotation of the atoms. Hence, this type of transition, so vibrational from 0 to 1 level, there is a possibility of, there is a rotational vibrational interactions. So the particles are participating in rotational vibrational interactions. For question number 57, option number 3 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 58. Consider aqueous solution of two compounds A and B of identical concentrations. Surface tension of the solution A is smaller than that of pure water and B is greater than that of pure water under identical conditions. From this, one infers that, okay, here compound A and B both are provided. First, compound A surface tension is lower. Compound B surface tension will be higher. First, what is meant by surface tension? Surface tension is a physical parameter which denotes resistance towards the motion. So when we are considering any liquid having the natural tendency of movement, at the same time, internal some forces are there which used to restrict its motion. That resistance towards the motion is called surface tension. The relation between surface tension and concentration is reciprocal. Surface tension is inversely proportional to concentration. As the concentration rises, surface tension will be lowered, right? So let us see where the correct answer will be there. A surface tension is lower and B surface tension is higher. So surface concentration of A will be larger than B. So option C, option 3 will be the right answer. Why option 3 will be the right answer? Because A surface tension is smaller. That's why its concentration will be higher. In accordance with this relation, surface tension is a reciprocal of concentration. Surface tension is inversely proportional to concentration. That's the reason why surface tension of A is lower, so that concentration will be higher. For question number 58, option number 3 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 59. For a monodispersed polymer, number average molar mass and weight average molar mass are related according to. Okay, so number average, weight average, this is a part of polymer chemistry where polydispersed index Polydispersity index of the polymer is depicted by the formula ratio of number average molar mass by weight average molar mass by number average molar mass. Polydispersity index is equal to MW by Mn. MW stands for weight average, Mn number average molar mass. Okay, this is a general formula for the prediction of polydispersity index. Always, polydispersity index of weight average is greater than number average. Polydispersity index of weight average is always greater than number average. So because that's the reason why then only polydispersity index value will be higher than 1. So when this numerator value is higher, then only PDI value becomes more than 1. Right. So this is a general trend for polydispersed system. Polydispersed in the sense more than one layered atoms will be there. We are taking monodispersed system now. Means only one layer of polymerization is possible. For this case, polydispersed index required will be 1. Polydispersed index value should be 1 only. In order to get polydispersed index 1, MW should become exactly is equal to Mn. Weight average is equal to number average. So weight average number average ratio will become 1 when these two are identical. So that is nothing but for monodispersed polymer, number average, weight average, the relation will be MW exactly is equal to M bar M. For question number 59, option number 2 will be the right answer. Let us move on to question number 60. An intense purple color of plasmon band exhibited by the colloid consisting spherical. Okay, so this intense purple band, the plasmon band is generated in the colloid. Okay, so when we are taking nano-sized particles, their entire properties are changed when compared to the material existing in the bulk. That's the reason why nanochemistry having advanced trends and so many applications are present. When the particle diameter changes, their properties also entirely varied. So when we are taking gold, a bulk molecule, that is golden yellow. So when we are making that gold particle to 5 nanometer of size, that color will be changed, right? So because of diameter change. So diameter is only 5 nanometers. We are taking on the nanoscale. That's the reason why its properties are entirely changed. For question number 60, option number 3 will be the right answer. Right. So by this, we completed entire part B of CSIR NET JRF June 2017 question paper. Hope it will be very much helpful. And I think I made all the questions very clear. And I collected all these questions from different sources like internet and also from YouTube sources. Thank you very much for all these, for providing this information. So thank you one and all for your patience listening. Thank you.